Hugh loved to be outside, and in the summer that meant he was out till late at night, down on the beach, exploring in amongst all the rocks and all the rock pools and caves even, and playing with his friends. But on a winter's night, they would have to come inside, and they would come in and sit around the fire. And if they were lucky, Grandma would tell them a story. Now, one of the stories that Grandma told Hugh Miller and his friends was about the mermaid. Well, now, everybody knew about the mermaid. Of course, you see, there's a mermaid that lives out there in between the suitors in the Cromarty Firth. Now, this mermaid was very beautiful. And she was very strong. Now, if you managed to catch her, she would give you wishes 3. But she'd also try and drown you. So, you'd have to be very careful indeed. And if you saw the mermaid, the best thing is just to leave her and to watch and just to be really happy that you've seen the mermaid. Now, everybody knew about this mermaid and how she could try and drown people. Well, now living in Cromarty 200-300 years ago, there was a captain of a beautiful sailing ship. Here is the sailing ship. And he would sail back and forth and he would make lots of money. Now you'd think he'd be a happy man. But no, Captain Reed, that was his name. Captain Reed was not a happy man. You see, the thing was, he was in love with the fair Helen. Now, fair Helen lived in Cromarty basically in a bubble of happiness and joy and fun. You see, she was very fortunate. She was a very lucky young lady. She grew up in a very nice family, and there was never any money worries, and she was pretty and she had lots of friends, and so she'd never grappled with the realities of life. Nope, she had never grappled with the realities of life. And in her bubble, she had her dream husband. Now, she'd created this wonderful dream of a husband, and her dream husband, oh wow, he was very good looking. He had lovely long eyelashes and a super jawline and wonderful cheekbones, and he was tall and strong and handsome and kind and good and funny and witty and clever and artistic and poetic and musical, and he could do absolutely anything for anybody. He was such a kind man, and he was very clever, and he earned lots of money, and he was very good at practical things. He would manage to fix things that were broken. Basically, he was just altogether too good to be true. And that's the thing, you see, he wasn't true. He was just a dream husband. So Helen had her dream husband. I think maybe quite a lot of teenage girls have dream husbands. Anyway, because she had her dream husband, she didn't notice poor Captain Reed. You see, although he was a very nice chap, he didn't have particularly long eyelashes or some wonderful cheekbones. And fair Helen never really paid him any attention. Anyway, poor Captain Reed. It was about time for him to go off on another voyage, and he thought to himself, well, you know, just to see her before I go will lighten my heart, and the memory of her will keep me going through the encounters with the stormy seas. And he knew that it was going to be May Day. Now, in those days, and maybe even now, on May the 1st, especially the girls get up early and go and wash their face in the morning dew. That way, they'd stay young and beautiful forever. I forgot. Anyway, he knew that Helen and her friends on the 1st of May would get up early and go up the Souters, the hills up above Cromarty, to wash their face in the morning dew. And so he got up early and he went walking along the shore. And as the sun was rising and the lovely golden light of the sun was coming across the water, he saw something glinting on the rocks. What was it? And when he looked closer, it was the mermaid. The mermaid he'd heard about. The mermaid that if you could catch her and hold on to her, would grant you wishes 3. And he thought to himself, I'm strong. I'm going to go for it. So he went into the water and he went round the back of the rock and he managed to grab hold of the mermaid and he held on tight. And she, of course, tried to drown him. Yes, she went, dragged him down into the water, down, blub, 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 down into the water. Oh, woof. He got back up. And again, she took him down into the water, this time in amongst all the seaweed and all the mud and bluff, bluff. But he managed to get up. And she said, okay, wishes 3. So he was able to ask her. So, first of all, he said, I wish that none of my crew will drown. That was not nice. Granted, said the mermaid. And your second wish? I wish that all my voyages will be profitable. Granted, she said. And your third wish? For my third wish, I would so wish that fair Helen would wish to be my bride and that she will marry me. Granted, said the mermaid. Wow! Oh, Captain Reed was so happy. He let go of the mermaid and the mermaid swam off into the sunrise and, got out of the water. And, even though he was soaking wet, he had bits of seaweed stuck in his hair and a crab crawling out of his pocket. He just felt so brilliant, so happy. And off he went, carrying on, walking up the Souters. And sure enough, there were the girls coming down the hill. Fair Helen and her friends, all coming down, giggling away. And they came across Captain Reed. And Captain Reed bowed, because in those days that's what the men did, and said, good morning, ladies. I hope you've had a good morning. And they said, yes, it was a beautiful morning. And how are you? And he said, well, I've had a very beautiful morning too. And they started chatting. And Fair Helen noticed him for the first time. You see, now that he was feeling happy and he was smiling, she could actually see that he was rather special. And he did have beautiful eyes, and he had a lovely soul. She could tell that he was a good man. And all her friends thought this would be a very good match. And so they came down the hill all together, and by the time they got to the bottom, she'd agreed to go for a walk with him that evening. And they went for many walks, and they went a-courting. And after many a year, they were married, and they built a house here in Cromarty that looks over the bay at where the mermaid swims. And that's true. Captain Reed and Fair Helen were real people who did live here in Cromarty, as did Hugh Miller, who wrote down the story. Thank you, Hugh. Thank you for writing down the story so that we still know it today.